Unmute. Morning, good morning, good morning. It's so good to see you out there. It's very nice to see you out there. I am Dr. Helen, your host of Right Where You Are, the Accelerated Healing Detox Bootcamp, where we build health one day at a time. I'm also the previous host. Okay, the host of the Faith Building Bootcamp, where we build faith one day at a time. We used to meet every morning at 6 a.m. Central Time for our Faith Building Bootcamp. This morning was our last morning of our 40-day stint of having our Faith Building Bootcamp, where we built our faith one day at a time. We continue to build our faith even after this is over, as well as where you are, the Accelerated Healing Detox Bootcamp, which is where we build our health one day at a time. And this is our day 40, our last day in the 40-day stint of being live together. I'm helping to build health one day at a time. And obviously, we're going to continue with that as well. We are going to continue building our health and continue building our faith for many of you out there. It is so nice to have you here. I know that people are coming in and out all of the time, and people are joining. And I asked God for a certain number of subscribers, and he answered that prayer, which is absolutely amazing. So very excited about that. This is our 40th day. Can you believe it? Drum roll. 40th day. Yeah. There we go. I missed the drum roll. 40. Woohoo! Okay. We planned that and then I messed it up. So sorry about that. But listen, I don't know if this is your day 1, day 2, or your day 40. But if it's your day 1, welcome. If it's your day 2, welcome back. And if it's your day 40, look at you, because you're at the finish line here at our Accelerated Healing Detox Bootcamp. We have been talking about an ounce of prevention. We've talked about an ounce of prevention. And I know I'm going to be talking very fast. I want to be able to get to all of the oils that I put in here, but I kind of feel like we're not going to be able to do that. So you might find me talking a little bit faster than I used to, but I'm going to try to get it all in. So here we go. An ounce of prevention. My mom always told me an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And so we're trying to get an ounce of prevention so we won't have to worry about doing a whole pound of cure. Like, do we have to do a whole pound of cure? Oh no. But first, before we get into it, I want you to check out my favorite husband. This is Rescue Me, my favorite husband, John Stoddard, on Rescue Me. Here we go.
Close the door and dim the lights. No more worshiping tonight. I'm so afraid that this nightmare might be real. The flash of light, the sound of steel, the touch of hate to make me feel I can never see the light again. Feel safe again, but hate will never win. Only love could rescue me. Only love can rescue me. Rescue me.
Yes, that is Rescue Me. That song, if you don't know, that song was written by my husband and my oldest daughter when she was 15, as a matter of fact. Remember when that thing happened in the Carolinas, where somebody came into the church and had his way in there. They thought he was a friend, and turned out he was an enemy. So that song is actually just as a nod to that, to just remember what was going on that day. So it's called Rescue Me. So here we are, day 40. And we have, I said send info pictures, but we are done. I'm sorry, I didn't change that, but we are done with pictures, obviously. But I hope that you can still submit some, and then we can submit them in our private Facebook group. So though they won't be here, they will be available in our Facebook group. So as you make your dishes, please just kind of drop them in, so we can all get some inspiration from what you have discovered in our private Facebook group. So the Facebook link is on the screen right now, and it is a clickable link in the chat if you want to just click on that so that you can join our private Facebook group. We'll continue with some dialogue in there. Now, interval 5 does start tomorrow. We're not doing interval 5 together, but I want you to make sure you keep in those antioxidants and those anti-inflammatory foods so that you can actually continue to do what we do for our health is fighting disease. Like we're just like given the 012, just keep like fighting every day. We're just fighting to make sure we maintain our health, and some to restore our health. So we hope that you are feeling strong, like you're doing those exercises. My legs are so sore, really my thighs are so sore, and just doing those steps, man, it is definitely a challenge. And I've been trying to do them all 30 at a time instead of doing 3 sets of 10. Yeah, just because, trying to be an overachiever. But I'm combining those exercises with health, with our food, because we know that food is our medicine, and we're wanting our food to be our medicine because we don't want medicine to have to be our food later on. So our disclaimer is that I am a board certified physician. I am dually trained in both internal medicine and physical medicine and rehabilitation. I was trained at Johns Hopkins and Sinai Hospital, and I was one of 2 students to be accepted into the program each year. So I kind of did a combination of internal medicine for 6 months and then go to physical medicine and rehabilitation for 6 months. And we kind of go back and forth with my partner, who was also the other student that was accepted in the year that I was doing my residency. It was kind of fun, but extremely challenging. But it turned out to be a good thing. I did additional training in my fellowship with sports medicine and non-surgical orthopedics, and actually was the one to actually start a fellowship program in that area. I wrote the program as well for subsequent students to come behind me, which was really a lot of fun, very challenging, but a good thing. And then my additional training in interventional pain, and then my own training in a lifestyle medicine, where I combined into my practice, which is called Pain, the number 2 wellness, because there were 2 things. I wanted people would come in with pain, and I wanted them to leave well, because we started incorporating lifestyle changes into my practice, and found out that people who did incorporate lifestyle changes were so much better. They had a lot less pain than the people who did not participate, and they required a lot less of my interventions with the injections, which was really great. I don't really know how to get to turning off my notifications quickly right now, so you might hear a little ding. I'm sorry about that, but we'll just ignore it and act like it's not there. So the information that we have here today and for the other 39 days is really for informational purposes only. It's for educational purposes only. Our information is really powerful at lowering blood sugars and lowering blood pressures and lowering cholesterol and decreasing inflammation, and helping you to actually recover and feeling good. And so I want to make sure that you stay in contact with your provider, because your provider knows you really well and knows the medications you're on. So just in case you need to change your medication, decrease your medication, or remove your medication, they would be there to avail you in that respect, because it is really, really powerful. And we don't want our blood sugars to drop too low, and we don't want our blood sugars to drop too low. And that can happen if you're on medications for these things. So just make sure you stay in contact with your provider, because this information is not meant to replace their advice. That being said, an ounce of prevention, is worth a pound of cure. And we were talking about circulation. We were talking about what's happening inside. I'm just going to go through and just kind of remind you of some things that we talked about yesterday. But today we're going to really focus on the oil types and what to use, and, different things of that nature. And so just as a reminder, remember that our cardiovascular system is the system where all the blood flows through. Your heart is pumping blood through every single organ, every single muscle, every single cell in your body, including your skin, your brain, your heart, your lungs, your what's called basal ganglia, which is the part of your brain that handles fine motor skills. That's the part that's damaged in Parkinson's disease. It is also responsible for pumping brain into the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that's responsible for decision making and executive function and focus and being able to make good decisions, to be able to not be impulsive, but to think about things. It even supplies blood, yes, to that part of the brain. It supplies blood to the pancreas, that organ that secretes insulin, so that when you consume your food and sugar comes in, that the insulin will attach to that sugar so that it can go to all the muscles and the cells of your body so that your body can produce energy. That's the energy that not only the cells need in your body, but the energy that you can feel when you say, wow, I feel like I have energy. It is responsible for pumping blood to the muscles so that if a bear comes and follows you, it's going to pump faster through those adrenal glands that we talked about, those adrenal glands that are going to secrete the epinephrine that's going to say, okay, let's get it in gear. Your heart starts to pump faster. It is that circulatory system that we are talking about, the one where the heart pumps everything everywhere throughout the body. And so it is absolutely necessary that the pumping value of the heart and where it pumps it into is healthy, so that there's an adequate blood flow. Because what goes on in the blood flow, the cells that carry oxygen to the different parts of your body, that those cells that have white blood cells that fight off infection, those cells that have natural killer cells that fights off cancer, all of those things are necessary. So you want your blood vessel to be clean. You don't want it to have all these yellow sticky plaques, so that as your blood flows through it, your platelets stick to that and cause you to have a blood clot that can lead to a heart attack or a stroke. So we want the clean part. We don't want the sticky jelly part with not jelly, but the foamy part with all the yellow cholesterol built up inside of the blood vessel that narrows the opening so that we have less blood flow. That means you have less white cells going through there to fight infection. That means you have less natural killer cells going through there to fight cancer. It means you have less blood flowing through there to provide you with energy. You have less blood flowing through there to take your sugars and drop it into the different organs of the body, that different cells of the body that need that sugar to produce energy. So why? Now you know why you're tired, why people complain of fatigue, and why they complain of mental disclarity. Is that a word? Not being able to think clearly. I've written a thesis. So, once you write a book, you can make up words. So I'm just taking that liberty right now. And so you can actually do all of those things when you have blood supply. Your body is able to fight. And when the platelets get sticky in there, blood clotting can actually go. So that endothelial lining needs to be intact. That's the lining inside of the blood vessels need to be intact so that it can actually allow the blood vessels to open and close when it needs to. That means to dilate when it needs to, and it allows it to stay open so that your blood circulation can go through it, because it's secreting the nitric oxide. You remember that Viagra thing? That nitric oxide is what Viagra is trying to simulate. But your endothelial lining, yes, that means that you have an endothelial lining to the blood vessels, to your private parts. Men talk about erectile dysfunction. When the endothelium is damaged in there, you're not going to get the erection that you're looking for. Because why? The nitric oxide that supports the dilation so that you can get a nice erection is destroyed. And so it is very important that we have good blood vessels, that these blood vessels are clean enough that allows the blood to go through and not get hung up. And so we want to make sure that we have a clean blood vessels. When we talk about the Mediterranean diet, people talk about how the Mediterranean diet keeps things clean, and it does. But the thing is that we have altered the Mediterranean diet in the US, and we're like, well, then we're going to do it like this. And so one of the things that I want you to know about is that the Mediterranean, like they have their own olive oil. The Spain, they have their own olive oil. Italy, they're growing these olives there in those groves. They're growing them. And I just want to remind you that they're not sending us the best olive oil. the best olive oil they're keeping. And so you will find that when you get olive oil, you're probably going to have to pay a premium price for it, because in order to get the extra virgin olive oil, that's the pure olive oil, you're probably going to pay a little bit more money for it. And so when we talk about all the different oils that we're going to try to cover today, our goal is to replace the bad fats with good fats, right? And so we know that the bad fats are like those things that have a lot of different problems. It's not as easy as saying the bad fats are saturated fats and the good fats are polyunsaturated or monounsaturated fats. It's kind of more than that. We're talking about things that are happening. We're talking about how these oils are processed. We're talking about the chemicals that are placed in them to make them in the form that we see them in, as an oil that we can pour. And the first one that I want to just touch on is canola oil, probably because this is my least favorite oil, and I do not purchase canola oil. Canola oil is actually an oilseed crop that was created in Canada. Do you hear me? It was created in Canada through a crossbreeding process of a rapeseed plant. Okay. And so the name canola actually means it's from Canada, and the ola means it's an oil. And so it's an oil from Canada. So it was made there in Canada. Most of the canola crops are genetically modified to improve the oil's quality and to increase its tolerance against the herbicide. So it has to be sprayed. I mean, we talked about spraying things for insecticides and herbicides. It has been genetically modified so it can actually stand up to the herbicides that are sprayed on it as it grows. And so most of the canola oil, as a matter of fact, about 90% of the canola crops grown in the US are genetically modified for herbicide resistance, according to a study that was done in 2011, when it first started coming on the scene. Canola oil is a vegetable oil, and it involves a synthetic process to help to extract the oil from the rapeseed. Canola oil is actually made into different forms like margarine and shortening, and they use the process of hydrogenation. And remember that hydrogenation is a chemical process that makes it kind of firm and thick, so that hydrogenation then causes more of a problem for us in our health. That makes it that thick structure that's chemically altered to make it happen that way. This process makes the oil solid at room temperature instead of an oil. And what it does by doing that is it extends the shelf life, and it also does what we don't want, is to create trans fats. Okay, so the trans fats are things that we talked about. You don't want, there's no safe amount of trans fats that the body can take without it actually causing inflammation, especially around the heart muscles and the heart vessels and in the brain. And so that most people that are eating trans fats are eating it from this partially hydrogenated oil. So here's a little hack for you. If you're reading the ingredients on something and it says 0 trans fats, but then you read in the ingredients it says partially hydrogenated, that means they're trans fats. That it only means that there are less than 0.05 milligrams in there, so that they can say that there are no trans fats. But that is a trans fat. So just so you know, you have a hack that you can go along with. A smaller portion comes from the natural trans fats found in dairy and meat products. Overall, this really means that the trans fat, it increases the amount of trans fats that you're consuming. And we know that through these processing, this processing of the oils, that it can become harmful to the health. And it has been linked to heart disease. And so many countries, including the US in 2008, were talking about have banned products that have trans fats in them. And so that's when that whole thing in 2018 actually came into place. But we are noting that we are able to, we know how to pick up on the fact if there are trans fats in there. Let's talk about avocado oil. Avocado oil is a nice oil that boasts a lot of the same benefits as like extra virgin olive oil. It has a higher smoke point than olive oil does, and it makes it, you can use it for sauteing and pan frying and things of that nature. But here's the thing, that we do know is that all oils have the effect on the endothelium that we talked about. All of them do. Now, there are some that have a lesser effect than others. And so, but they're all going to have it. So it's still very important to limit the oils or even remove oils from your diet, particularly if you have type 2 diabetes. You want your life to be an oil-free kind of life, as your body tries to get rid of the excess fat that does not allow your blood sugars to be uptaken the way they should. That's a talk for another time. But it is something that is high in vitamin E, which is an antioxidant, and it's high in this monounsaturated fat, which is a good type of fat. Avocado oil doesn't have like much of a flavor, so it won't overpower your cooking. And the smoke point is somewhere around 520 degrees Fahrenheit. But just so you know, it's not just about the smoke point. It's also about how the oils get oxidized and things of that nature. And so, you might find some things that have a higher smoke point. I particularly don't fry anything in oil anymore. That's why I bought an air fryer. So I use an air fryer on my foods. And for the most part, I don't use any oils in my cooking unless it's absolutely necessary for flavor. And so that makes it a very rare occurrence that I need it. We've talked yesterday about all of the things that add moisture to your baked goods. And so I don't have to add it to my baked goods anymore, where I used to like just, here's a cup of oil, let's put that in there. I didn't realize at the time what it was doing to the insides of my blood vessels. So I cut way back and almost like non-existent, because I don't want my blood vessels to look like that. And so the interesting thing about grapeseed oil is it's processed from the seeds of the grapes, which is this is like a byproduct. When they're making wine, they're getting the oil from the seeds that they make the wine from. And so they have to extract the oil through this crushing process. So they will crush the seeds, and they'll use solvents like hexane, right? Hexane, it's a chemical, and that chemical is used to pull out the oil from the seeds. And so that solvent extraction process makes like all kinds of vegetable oils, like soybean oil and all of those different things. And all of these solvents, they try to remove them before the oil is actually put on the shelf, but you're still getting a small amounts of the hexane. And so it's particularly when you're using a lot of oil, you're using oil every day, that increases your exposure to the hexanes, these dangerous chemicals. So high quality oils are cold pressed or expeller pressed, because that that helps to maintain their molecular structure, but they're going to be a lot more expensive, and that it prevents this whole process is something that they use to make sure that it stays on the shelf longer. So when you get these expeller express, you're going to spend a little bit more money for it. You can't expose them to light, because if you expose them to light, then that will cause them to become rancid. And if you expose them to high heat, then it'll also cause it to start producing the trans fats. So if you are using grapeseed oil, people are using it for roasting and baking and sauteing and stir frying and all that kind of thing. But it's not known how much of these hexanes are in the vegetable oils that harm people over time. It's not like if you do it one time, you're harmed, but just the constant exposure to it can be harmful to your health. And so those are the things that we are kind of worried about. Even the people who are working in production of it, when they inhale these, it harms these when they inhale the hexanes, it's very harmful to their health. And it's actually an environmental pollutant if it's released into the air. So research is now focusing on how to do this alternatively, so it doesn't do all of that. So if your oil doesn't explicitly state that how it's processed, then you should just assume that it's extracted using chemicals like the hexane. And so when they are doing a cold press or expeller press, they are happy to put it on the label. And so you want to look for that if you are going to use oils. And the other thing with grapeseed oil is that it has a very high content of omega-6. Omega-6 is a pro-inflammatory fat. We have omega-3, omega-6, and omega-9. And that omega-6 is pro-inflammatory, and so it can actually cause this inflammation and lead to different diseases, and we don't want that, obviously. And it's also interesting that even though it does have the omega-6, omega-6 in the right proportions are actually good, but the problem is that sometimes we get these things way out of proportion. So the omega-3 to omega-6 really should be more like a 1-to-1 ratio, but we're getting things like a 1-to-4 ratio. So you got a lot more omega-6 than you do omega-3. And so that becomes a problem. And it almost like nullifies the vitamin E that might be in the grapeseed oil, because we know that grapeseed oil is going to benefit, like it's an antioxidant. It actually benefits the nervous system, and it actually benefits to protect against tumor growth. But when it's pro-inflammatory, it's got a whole lot to fight when it's trying to get rid of things. Okay, so it's got a whole lot of things to fight. So like many oils, the vegetable oils is not a good source. Like you can't, it's not a good thing to say, okay, I'm going to get this oil because I'm going to get vitamin E in it, or I'm going to get this oil because it has antioxidants in it, because it kind of is a double-edged sword, if you would. And so compared to, it's got this grapeseed oil smoke point is lower than the avocado oil. It's got 321 degrees. But it is definitely something to be careful of it, because of these hexanes, and they just can become harmful and can even lead to cancer growth. And this has actually been found in animal studies. So there's like really widespread concern about these polycyclic aromatic amines, these hydrocarbons that these things are producing, causing these that makes it inflammatory and leads to disease. So it is very important to make sure you are aware of that when you go and you look for things. There's also good amount of fat in, like 14 grams of fat in like a tablespoon of the grapeseed oil, and that is very, very interesting. And the next oil that I want to talk about is macadamia oil. I know somebody asked about macadamia oil. The macadamia oil is actually coming from the tree nuts. They're native to Australia, and it's a really rich source of nutrients, including the good fats, and it has potassium in it. So people really use macadamia oil for all of this range of benefits. It's monosaturated. It can lower the bad cholesterol that lowers your risk of like heart disease and stroke. And people use it for sauteing and roasting and grilling and marinades, making salad dressings and things of that nature. All of my salad dressings are absolutely oil free. Because again, I do note that even though they have some good properties, that these oils are also going to cause damage to the endothelial lining. And because they cause damage to the endothelial lining, it may lead to those things that you can see with the cholesterol plaques going in through the blood vessels. So if you're using it, you want to like limit it. Like, most people would just go like, okay, I'm just going to pour this oil in here and do no pouring. You can spoon it. Like you want to really, really cut down on the amount of oil that you're using, and really, really increase the antioxidants that don't have the effect on the blood vessels that we're seeing from these oils. But macadamia oil is also a good source of vitamin E, and it's awesome for skincare. But although some people may have tree nut allergies, so they can get a rash and it may clog the pores, it's still a very good source. It's a natural hair conditioner. It can actually be used to strengthen the hair, to smooth the hair, add shine to it, make your hair more manageable. So there are really some good benefits from it, from its antioxidants. But if you're going to cook with it, you want to use it sparingly. Now, the omega-6, some of the oils that have the highest amount of omega-6 fats in them are like grapeseed oil, sunflower oil, corn oil, and then soybean oil. Canola oil actually has less omega-6 fatty acids, but we've already talked about all the issues going on with that. And again, the omega-6s are going to increase inflammation. It's going to cause high cholesterol, kind of imbalance your hormones, including your thyroid hormones, and it causes obesity and weight gain. So there's, this is really an issue. Excuse me. Now let's talk about coconut oil. Oh man, we are definitely running out of time. Let's talk about coconut oil. There's been a lot of hype surrounding coconut oil in the past few years. That's one of my favorite oils. I'm very spare. I use it very sparingly. It is said that it is a saturated fat, and saturated fats can lead to heart disease and lead to strokes and things of that nature. So I'm very careful about it. But the one thing that I haven't gotten the answer to yet is how this truly affects the body. It's said to actually cause cholesterol, high cholesterol, but coconut oil is a medium chain triglyceride. It's not a long chain fat. It's a medium chain triglyceride, so it's actually broken down a lot faster before it can do that. And I'm still researching that, but in the meantime, I use it very sparingly. And I would typically use the coconut oil if I'm trying to get like a buttery feel on something. And I am very careful about the amount that I use. It's like I'm using like spoonfuls. I'm not like just chucking the coconut oil into my food. And so we know that saturated fats are bad for you. Saturated fats, we know they cause heart disease. I'm just not sure about the coconut oil. And this is a natural saturated fat as opposed to a synthetic saturated fat. And I think, just like we have found some things that have happened as things become synthetic, we find more problems with the synthetic versions of the natural versions. So that is just my gestalt. I am not sure that is indeed the case, that coconut oil doesn't. I'm still doing research on it, but we will find out I'm sure at some point in the future. In the meantime, I am very sparingly. I use it every now and again in my cooking applications. Now, corn oil is a refined vegetable oil that's used for deep frying. It's got a high smoke point, 450 sauteing, and people saute with it, make salad dressings. Again, my salad dressings are oil free, delicious, but oil free. And I learned many years ago that it doesn't take anything to make salad dressings. Like it just seemed like it was so difficult before. Like, man, I would never be able to do that. And then one day I just like started putting things in a blender and I was like, oh, this is good. Oh, that's good. And so I decided that I will never buy salad dressings again. And I'm so glad that I don't, because they're full of fats, full of high fructose corn syrup. Some people say I have problems losing weight. I like eater salads, but they're putting these really heavy salad dressings on them that have high fructose corn syrup in it that actually causes a great increase in insulin. And because it increases the insulin so much, insulin is a fat storage hormone. So you're thinking you're losing weight, but you're actually gaining weight because of the fat content and the high fructose corn syrup in them. So they really don't accomplish the goal that you would hope that they would. And so corn oil is actually used in so many things. It's chemically processed with that hexane, just like the canola oil is. And it helps, it's said that it's a phytosteroid, so sterol, so that it can kind of decrease cholesterol and block the absorption of cholesterol. But the other way that we're finding is that really is not happening in real life. And so, they do have other jobs for it, like it's an industrial cleaner. They use it fuel for gasoline and diesel powered engines, and they make soaps and lotions and things out of that. It's got a pretty high content of fat in, like 14 grams of fat in it. And you're like, why is there so much fat in there? But that's what's in the corn oil. The peanut oil, I'm trying to go fast. Peanut oil is a monounsaturated fat, but it goes through a lot of chemical processing as well. It does have a lot of vitamin E in it, but it's very high in omega-6, which is a pro-inflammatory, and it's prone to oxidation. So it can really oxidize and can cause your LDL cholesterols to be increasing your cholesterol levels because of that high oxidation capacity of it. It does have a high smoke point, so you see that your fast food restaurants are using peanut oils and things like that to fry the French fries in, and all those kinds of things. And so you might see that there, some places may be using canola oil, but just imagine that these restaurants, if you can get a meal for $1, you're not really getting like high quality food. I mean, let's just be real. We do know that, and I don't want anybody to be fooled by it, to think that I can go here and I can get like some really high quality food. Sometimes it's like that's what you can afford, or that's what I just need it right now. I get that, but just know what is happening and try to add your fruits and vegetables to try to counteract as much as you can. I don't know if there is a formula. If I eat this many, will it dissolve this much fat? I really don't know the answer to that question, just in case you had that question. I don't know the answer to it. I just try to cut it out so I don't have to worry about calculating anything like that. And so the oxidation is really a problem with this. And this process commonly occurs with these kinds of fats. And when we talk about soybean oil, it's really kind of the same story. It's really the same story. It's got a lot of fat in it. It's used by a lot of people. It's used in fast food industries and all of those kinds of things. But it's kind of the same story. Even though some of these oils have vitamin E or whatever, this one has vitamin K to help with the bone health and omega-3 and all that. But just the counteracting of it with all of the things that happens within the omega-6s and all those kinds of things, it just becomes kind of mute. And so like the oils that we're just like just putting all in, then frying things, and these things are really high in omega-6 fatty acids. We're talking about soybean oil, corn oil, cottonseed oil, sunflower oil, peanut oil, sesame oil, rice bran oil. All of those oils are really high in omega-6, and we know that they are pro-inflammatory. Let's just look a little bit at extra virgin olive oil. We kind of touched on it in the beginning, and we talked about this yesterday too, that these blood vessels, the vessels that when this atherosclerosis sets up in the blood vessels, it is actually what's called, let me say it again, atherosclerosis. So I can say it, you probably have heard that. This is really a narrowing of the blood vessels because of these build up that we showed you the pictures of, the build up of these waxy plaques and clumps of fat and debris in the vessel walls. That's what atherosclerosis is. And so the vessels become very narrow and rigid, and makes the heart has to work really, really hard to deliver the oxygen to the bodies. And then it increases the risk of heart attacks because there's not enough blood going in there. And then the heart is overworking itself in the wall of the heart. You know how you work out and your muscles get bigger? That's happening in your heart. When your heart muscle has to work so hard for the afterload, or to get the blood out into the bloodstream, that muscle of the heart is getting thicker and thicker and thicker. And what does that do to the amount of blood that can come into the heart? That means there's less blood that can fit inside the ventricle wall now, because in the ventricular cavity, because the wall is so thick that less blood can come inside of it. And so that means less blood is being pumped out of the heart. And so this can really be a problem. So people are saying, well, olive oil works really well. But the research is actually showing that the Mediterranean diet is so successful, not because of the olive oil, but it's in spite of the olive oil. So that the olive oil just is something that they're using, and they don't do that. Like when we were in Greece, I didn't have anything fried. I didn't see a lot of that. I'll say, I don't know that they didn't have it, but I didn't see a lot of fried foods. But when they use the olive oil, I noticed that they didn't use a lot of oil, like when you get your food, like it wasn't like oily or dripping with oil or anything. There was really a lot more. There were a lot more fresh fruits and vegetables, and it's so interesting to me. Like in these other countries, like when we were going to Dubai or we're going to Australia, they just had food stands that you can just pick up fruit. Like you can be walking down the street and grab a piece of fruit. I mean, and it's not like $3 for a banana. It's not $3 for an apple. It's like this is just their way of life. And so they're walking everywhere. They're eating all of these fresh fruits and vegetables. So it's not a conundrum why they are healthier, even though they eat oil in their diet. And just rest assured, they're not sending us their best oil. It's just not happening. But if you are going to use oils, the ones that I concentrate on, the only oils that I have in my cabinet is I have extra virgin olive oil. I actually got it from Spain. And Spain actually has the top quality olive oil. And we were there earlier this year, so I picked some up. And then no, that was last year. Okay, that was last year. Time is so fast. But I picked some up, but it lasts me a pretty long time because I don't use it very often. And then I have coconut oil in my cabinet. I have avocado oil in my cabinet. And when I'm doing Asian cooking, I have a little bit of sesame oil. But these are things that I add when it's absolutely necessary. And I just don't find that many applications. And sometimes I have to throw the oil out because it's been in there too long and I haven't had to use it. So I I'm very, very careful about using oils in our food when I'm cooking. So I tried to like get everything. We were really close. I couldn't get to all of the oils and all of the things that I really wanted to talk about, but I hope that that really answered some of the questions that you guys were having about the macadamia oil and the extra virgin olive oil and all of those kinds of things. So these are just the words of caution that I would like to just pass on to you. The oils are be particular. If you're going to use oils, be very particular. Try to decrease the amount of oils. When you get some hummus and it's got oil dripping off of it, if you go there and they say, can I have some hummus, and they're making the hummus and they put oil, just say, please don't put the oil on it. I don't need that extra oil, right? I don't need it. If they do it, it makes it look pretty, but please don't put it on mine. I don't need the extra oil. These oils are, they can cause disease over time because of the damage to the endothelial lining that it can cause. And so, and also remember that if you're going to be cooking with your oil, if the oil starts to smoke or it catches on fire, don't use it. Throw it out and keep going. Also, and do not do deep frying. Use your air fryer. If you have an air fryer, that would be so much more healthy to use than using in a deep fryer. And even if I don't do this, but some people will just brush oil on their food and put it in the air fryer so that it can brown it nicer. And I'm not totally against that. I don't do that, but some people do that, but it's so much less oil than you would get than when you're deep frying. And those pictures that I showed you the other day with my tofu, fried chicken, etc., all of that stuff had no oil in it. It was done in the air fryer, and it browned nicely. You wouldn't have known that there was not oil on it when you're just looking at it, and it was nice and crispy. It was good. So the only thing is that as it sits, it won't be as crispy, but I don't think chicken stays crispy. I'm not sure. It's been so many years since I had chicken. I don't know. But if the oil smells bad, don't use it. Throw it out if that means it's rancid. When an oil is stored for too long, it becomes oxidized, and that oxidation is the rancidity. And so you want to get rid of that. It has a very distinct smell. Don't reuse oil and don't reheat any cooking oil. Buy oil in smaller containers if you're not going to use it frequently. So you don't have to buy the very large bottles of oil. You can buy smaller ones because if you're going to decrease the amount of your oils. And so if you're going to decrease the amount of oils that you use, you want to buy smaller containers so that you don't run the risk of it getting rancid. Like I did. I was like throwing oils out. I'm like, oh man, I forgot this was even here. And so this way you will most likely use it before it expires. When you get the smaller containers, you'll use it before it expires. So those are all of the things. And yes, I love my air fryer too. Those are the things that I wanted to talk to you about today on our last day of our Accelerated Healing Detox Bootcamp. So we've talked all about circulation and what's happening normally inside of our blood vessels. We talked about the standard American diet and why it's a sad diet. We talked about what's actually going on inside the vessels when it goes wrong and how it closes your blood circulation and can affect your heart and your lungs and your penis and your ability to think clearly and all of those things that are necessary of controlling your blood sugars. Circulation is just key. I mean, it's just important for every single organ of your body. And so this is really a problem in our society today because we're just dealing with all of these different things. And so we are wanting to make sure that we are using our best knowledge and our education for our best health. And so I'm going to just entertain some questions right now and make sure that they enter a Q colon format. We are over. I knew it was going to go over though. It's just too much, and I didn't even get to half the things that I wanted to talk about. Okay, here's a question. Your thoughts: consumed without heating black seed oil, fish oil claims to be good for heart health. Cannabis oil aids the natural endocannabinoid system. Yeah, you know what? I have personal thoughts about the cannabis oil. I love black seed oil for medicinal purposes, you don't have to use very much black seed oil, right? The black seed oil, it is said that black seed oil cures everything except death. I also have black seeds. And if I am sick, yeah, I think black seed oil is great, or to maintain your health. You don't have to use very much of it. I think it's only like a teaspoon. So I think you're good with black seed oil and fish oil tablets because they're mostly omega-3, right? Those are the anti-inflammatory oils. They're not the pro-inflammatory oils. So it's a little bit different. Most of the commercially produced oils are pro-inflammatory because they have a lot of omega-6 fatty acids in it. The black seed oil and the fish oil is omega-3. And black seed oil is a plant version of omega-3, so it's actually, a good version of it. Just like flax seeds are with omega-3, and chia seeds have the omega-3. The thing is about omega-3s is you should never heat them, because if you heat them, it destroys the omega-3s. Okay, so it destroys the omega-3 oil, so you don't ever want to heat them. So the omega-3 oils are anti-inflammatory, and so they will help to keep the decrease. Now, cannabis oil, I'm not a proponent of cannabis at all. I don't use it in hemp seeds. I don't use it in brownies. I don't use it in smoking it. I don't do any of that. I don't rub it on my body for pain. I don't do any of that, because cannabis is a toxin, and cannabis is actually stored in the fat cells. And you'll see, like, right around the fat cells is the safest place for toxins to be. And when you do something like you fast or whatever, you're going to be releasing these toxins. And the problem that I have is that it actually affects the frontal lobe, the prefrontal cortex, that's responsible for thinking and reasoning and executive function, and for making good decisions on the spot. And so I don't want my prefrontal cortex to be damaged with any of the cannabis. I know we have a natural endocannabinoid system. It is our system that is naturally produced, and so we don't need to have it exogenously, meaning we don't have to take it in order to supply our own system. God took care of all of that stuff. He didn't. We don't need to add to it. And so for me, I completely stay away from it. People were coming to me in my practice, hey, you should do this, this cannabis oil and whatever. I'm like, yeah, this is not. I'm not going to do it. So I'm doing more investigating on it, but I do know that effect that it is toxic, and it hangs around the fat cells. Can these oils be used topically, like for hair? Yes, for hair and skin. And we talked about that. The macadamia oil, for instance, is very good for that. I use grapeseed oil in my hair. I use coconut oil in my hair. I have like a whole little pre-poo thing that I did yesterday when I did my hair. I use all these oils to add moisture to it and to put some shine in my hair and all of those kinds of things. So yes, it can be used of that. Coconut oil daily for oil pulls. Yeah, you're not swallowing that. You're just pulling out the bacteria, and then you spit that out, because all the bacteria and the fungus, all of that is coming out, and you just spit all that out. I don't have a problem with oil pulling. I do oil pulling too, to try to make sure you have good oral health. Now, here's a question: just to keep food from sticking to the pan, what is its best use? If you need to use oil in the pan, you put like a little bit of oil on a paper towel and rub it in the bottom of the pan if you want to keep it from sticking. And so you just put a coating on it. I use it like in my cast iron skillets. I'll use oil. Excuse me. I'll use oil. Let me drink a little bit of this is my green smoothie. It's spiraling. Look at how green and pretty that is. Okay. So I use you just put a little bit in the pan instead of putting a lot of oil in it, and then that way you're significantly decreasing the amount of oil that your body is consuming, and so it will help with decreasing insulin resistance, and will help with lowering your risk of obesity, or lowering your risk of heart disease, or lowering your risk of cancer, and all of those different kinds of things that inflammation causes. So I would just decrease it. What about sunflower oil? Sunflower oil is on the list of very high omega-6 fatty acids, which are pro-inflammatory. And so they are pro-inflammatory. And so you'll see that in the safflower oil, soybean oil, corn oil. You'll see that in peanut oil. Like, all of those oils are really high. Even the sesame oil. When I use sesame oil, it's like a teaspoon of sesame oil. Like, you don't only need it like when I'm doing Asian cooking. I might use it Most times I will take real sesame seeds and I'll toast the sesame seeds on top of the stove. I'll just dry toast them, and then I will just grind them up and then put them in the food, and it gives the sesame taste, the toasted sesame taste that you're looking for. So you don't really even have to use the oil, which is really why my oils tend to go rancid and I have to get rid of them, because I don't use them as often enough to not allow them to go rancid on me. All right, I was taught to start just about every savory dish by sautéing onions, garlic, cilantro, and other aromatics in a little oil. What is a good alternative to the oil in the sautéing process? I do this all the time, and I would direct you to. I have a whole series on YouTube on Dr. Helen PS where we did the cooking series that you're probably aware of because we've been talking about it because a lot of the recipes that we introduced during the interval 3 and interval 4 are on the website. But we actually do a demonstration on sauteing. We can either do dry sauteing or we can saute in a little bit of water, and both of them work well. I dry saute my seeds. If I'm making the fennel seeds like we talked about, I'll dry saute that. If I'm doing onions, I will do a little bit of water in the onions and then add the garlic after I've sauteed the onion and starts to get a little moisture in it. I'll add in some garlic, and so the garlic doesn't burn into that moisture kind of thing, with a little bit of water if you need to. If you're sauteing mushrooms have their own water, so you don't have to put any water in there. You just dry saute them and the water will start coming out of it. If you need to just get it started, you can put a little bit of water in there, but a lot of water will come out of the mushrooms when you're sauteing them. Let's see any other questions. So dry sauteing and water sauteing are the two that I would certainly recommend. There we go. Let the food cook. It won't stick. Look at that. Words of wisdom. Words of wisdom. So guys, this is our last day of our Accelerated Healing Detox Bootcamp. I know I talk fast. I tried to get everything in that I could possibly get in, but I couldn't get it all in because we were even over time with the little bit what I thought was just a little bit. But here we go. This is where we are. So this is our last day. Our Faith Building Bootcamp that we met every morning at 6 a.m. is live and it is reviewable. So you can always go back and review them. If you're just joining us, go through day 1 through day 40, and we are with you every single day. And there's great information, great nuggets of information to incorporate into your healthier lifestyle. If you want to decrease the risk of heart attacks, strokes, and diabetes, and high blood, all those horrible things, and this is the place for you to learn those things. So the Accelerated Healing Detox Bootcamp is also live. We do have our Reverse It book and Reverse It journal available on Amazon. They are here and here. And we also have our amazing and immune boosting power pack, which is available at www.p2whealth.com. It is also available. We do have the shirts that are available. I have my shirt here to show you. They are coming. I told you I'm still waiting. I'm hoping, she said that we should have something by next week. And so we are going to be doing it. This one says 40 days. I'm amazed. You guys did 40 days reversing stuff. So these t-shirts are going to be available in white with green writing. And then you saw our faith building t-shirt that I forgot to show this morning is also going to be available. So go back and take a look at all the videos. I know I talk really fast, and so I'm trying to get all of the information in. And so as I'm trying to get the information in, you might miss something. So go back and review the videos. But when you go back, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit the notification buttons, because as I load, can you believe it? As I go continue on social media, God help me, as I continue on social media, whenever I post a video, then you will be notified that the video is live. And so please share with your family, friends, your neighbors, and even your enemies so they can be nicer. Because if they were not so sick, if they weren't so constipated, they would be much nicer. So maybe you want to share it with them so they can start having some regular bowel movements. Okay. And that is what we'll do. I'm so glad that you are here. We believe that health is the new currency. This is our last day together live. Thank you guys so much for your support, so much for joining me. I hope this information has been super, super helpful for you. We are very excited that the 2 of us, the 3 of us, the 4 of us, the whatever number of us we all believe that health is the new currency, as faith is. And so we're building ours wisely. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you on my next video. Take care. Bye-bye.